Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Mark Gabberti, and this is the podcast for entrepreneurs who are looking for the breakthrough for their businesses. It takes a lot of effort to create a content brand and continue to maintain it. And one of the things that we all want to do with our content brands is to get the ROI that pretty much matches up with all the effort we're putting in to create our content and promote it. So how exactly do we get this ROI that we've been hoping for with our content marketing efforts? That's what we are going to discuss in this episode. Today's guests, yes, this is a special, two guests in the same episode, are the co-founders of Evergreen Profits, a dynamic and results-driven content marketing agency based in San Diego, California. By leveraging influencer outreach, Evergreen Profits helps online publishers determine the best distribution channels to reach their target audience with trackable content and media that drives engagement and increases brand awareness. Today's guests for episode 134 of the Breakthrough Success Podcast are none other than Matt, Wolfe, and Joe Fier. Matt and Joe, it is a pleasure to have this dynamic duo on the show.
Awesome, man. Thanks for having us today.
Yeah, we're excited. We're feeling the energy right now.
Yeah, this is rad. I love it.
And I'm really looking forward to diving into this because we create so much content. We just want to see this ROI. We want to continue to create because this is what we love to do, but we got to be able to get that return based on all the time we're putting in. So this is a topic I really look forward to exploring, but I'd like to get some backstory first. So can you two share with us why you decided to start Evergreen Profits together?
Yeah, so I'll keep it short because Matt and I have like a super long history. We go back 15 years working together or just tinkering around on blogs together back in the day on like side jobs. But basically, long story short, we started in blogging. So it's right there with content. So we've always had our hands somehow inside of content online. Figured out how to monetize it back in the day with, simple things like AdSense, text link banners where we would make like $20 a month off of a link on a blog. Big money, I know. But it was cool. So it kind of validified that we can make money online, but now how do we scale? First, a goal of ours was quit the day job. So like, how do we get out of that? And then, start to create our online presence. And that's pretty much so Matt and I, we kind of have different skill sets. So I'm more the hustler, salesperson, networker type. Matt's more the analytical, kind of digs into the metrics and numbers and stuff. So that's how we've always worked together. And it's a good synergy. So that's like one little, I think, point that you kind of give the audience. Like, it's really helpful to have both sides of that. But kind of getting into Evergreen Profits, we've been experimenting forever. Matt ran, you can talk about it a little bit. It's like the WordPress classroom, learntoblog.com.
It's always been sort of in the blogging content world for me. So back in we both quit our jobs, I think, in 2009 when we got a blog that was making about $500 a month because we thought we're going to be rich because if we can make it make $500 a month, we can make it make $5,000 a month and so on and et cetera. So we quit our jobs making basically no money and went, okay, crap, now we got to figure out how to make money. And that's when we moved sort of into the teaching realm of, okay, cool, we've got these blogs that we can make $500 a month off of with advertising. Let's go teach other people who want to learn how to make $500 a month off of blogging and go after not the market that wants to be entrepreneurs, but go after the market that just wants to make a little side income with blogging. They might want to just spend an hour a day messing with their blog and make a few $100 a month, cover their car payment or whatever. So that led to creating a course called the WordPress Classroom, which eventually merged with another company and became learntoblog.com. I sold that company. Joe and I started working together on an agency basis, basically doing what I used to teach for people, but doing it as an agency. And
and that morphed into, so we did, content focused, marketing agency work for a long time. And I think that little bio you read was a little, it might be a little outdated, but not a lot has changed. We don't really run an agency now. We've kind of shifted into doing a lot of rev share deals with some equity in other properties to pretty much do what we're chatting about now.
Right.
Bring ROI through content.
So essentially what we used to do as an agency where we'd go and set up content marketing strategies for various businesses, we still do that for various businesses. We just don't do it on a retainer basis we do it on a give us some equity in your business and a rev share basis, or we will consult with companies for a flat fee and basically give them a plan of action, but we don't actually, follow through and conduct that plan of action for them anymore.
And we have affiliate marketing, so
yeah, there's so much in the mix. We could probably talk about this stuff all day.
Right.
But yeah, so our main revenue streams are rev share for other companies we build content marketing for. We make a lot of income off of affiliate earnings from our various properties, and then we make money off of consulting with other companies and sort of game planning their business for them. So those are sort of our three silos of income right there.
And hearing these sources of income, it's pretty clear you guys are generating a strong ROI from the effort you're putting in. And it is interesting you guys take an equity approach now, because if you have an equity, like, you want to take it more seriously, since the amount of revenue you make is based on the success of the company you guys are teaming up with. So I really love that mechanic. But for people who just want to get started with, I want to actually get a good ROI from all this time I'm putting into content marketing, how do we get this ROI from all the time we're putting in for our content brands?
Well, there's a ton of different ways to earn income off of content. So our biggest income generator from our content marketing is actually from affiliate promos. And we kind of came to this sort of aha moment while we were running our agency. We were working for a handful of companies. We were running their content marketing for them, building out blog posts, working on their list building strategy, making sure their list was growing, making sure we were putting emails in front of that list. We were doing all this stuff for these companies, and we had a retainer with them. So it was a monthly retainer, which meant no matter how hard we worked and how well we performed for these companies, the amount of income we make was capped, right? So we were charging $5,000 retainer to basically retain us to run your content marketing plan for you. And we realized one day, we work really, really hard for this $5,000. We can go and do the exact same thing for a lot of the same exact companies we're already doing it for, but be affiliates of the product and earn 50% commission on any of the sales we generate by driving traffic to them. So we literally switched our model to doing the exact same thing we always did as an agency to doing it on an affiliate revenue basis. So now we generate content on our own platforms, drive it to the people we used to be, retained for the agency work, and now we earn our income through affiliate marketing. And then we also have our blog where we teach people how to do this stuff, and that leads to consulting income. So, that's how we really get an ROI from the various content plays that we do, is we drive the content that we create, the traffic drives to affiliate offers, or it drives to either consulting or working with us on a rev share deal. So that's sort of our big model. Now, somebody that's just kind of getting into blogging or just starting to build their business and wants to have a content strategy around it, the first purpose for your content, the first thing you should be focused on is, how do I create content that's going to provide enough value that people are going to see me as their go-to resource, right? So if I'm in let's just pick a random niche. Let's say the pest control niche. It's a niche I've talked about in the past because we used to have a client in this niche. Let's say I'm in the pest control niche. I want to have a blog that has all sorts of content about how to eradicate the various pests around my house. What's harmful to my plants in the backyard when I'm trying to control pests. What stuff is organic. I would create a ton of content in that niche so that people are coming to me just to learn in the first place. And then when they're ready to finally buy, they've already got their sort of trusted, recommended resource. So if you're in like a brick and mortar sort of traditional style business that's not focused on online marketing for the most part, that's the approach you need to take, is become that valued expert in your niche. Become that, I hate to use the term, but become that guru in your niche, so that when people are ready to buy from you, you're already top of mind because you're the resource that they tend to look up and find when they do searches on Google and things like that.
And one of the things you mentioned is that the two of you are creating content that's leading to these affiliate promotions. And the key thing here is that you're creating content, which is something that we have to consistently do in order to achieve success. And I feel like this is something we know, but the issue is actually getting to the point where we're consistently producing content. And some people go further and say you have to be consistent and frequent. So what are your guys' suggestions on how we can become consistent and frequent with our content production?
Yeah, that's a good question, and that's something we kind of get asked by every single one of our clients, is the fact that they don't know how to produce content effectively, and it's all about the quality over the quantity. I think that's like the biggest thing everyone listening here has to think about. It's the quality. So quality really starts with, how do you produce, and this is how you should be thinking about this. How do you produce content the best? Are you better talking it out like this on a podcast? Awesome. Cool. Do that. Are you better at writing, like just, crunching away on your keyboard? Cool. Do that. Or are you on video? Like, can you just whip out a video camera, start talking to it, or, do some cool fancy stuff? Maybe it's maybe you're talking over slides, for instance. There's so many different ways you can produce content. And the beautiful thing is that you can then basically morph that content into all sorts of other types of content out there. So video or audio obviously can be changed into text very easily, transcribing at rev.com or something like that. Audio can be turned into a video with slides, like I said, or a screen capture. A video, you on camera, can easily be turned into all of that stuff I just mentioned. So it's that's where quality, that's how we approach content initially.
Yeah, and you mentioned the consistency, and so many people are concerned about the consistency. And I've heard so much advice out there that you need to have a daily schedule, or you need to have a weekly schedule, or people won't know when to check in on you, or that frequency is very, very important. And I actually disagree with that. That's something that I would probably go head to head with any other content marketing expert any day on that claim, because I don't believe that's true. I think you can crank out a bunch of really, really crap content and put it out on a daily basis, and nobody's going to care about it because it's crap content. On the other hand, you could put out a amazing blog post just once per month and just absolutely crush it with content marketing. Backlink O'Brien Dean is a great example of this. He only blogs about once per month, and he's one of the best SEO'd websites I can think of in the content marketing world, and he only blogs once a month. I don't even know if he has a specific date that he blogs on either. It's just a new post comes out about once a month. So the consistency thing is something that I think people use as an excuse. They use it as an excuse of, I'm not going to get into content marketing because I just don't think I can be consistent. And it's crap. It's just, you don't have to be consistent. And I think you're overthinking how much people are checking in on you. I think so many people think, if I don't post something every day, my audience is going to start to go, well, what happened to the blog post from Tuesday? I didn't see anything. Nobody cares about you or your content as much as you think everybody cares about you and your content. So it's better to put the focus on, how do I make the absolute best quality content, and not necessarily how do I make sure it's super consistent. Now, if you do want to focus on high quality content consistently, there are some tricks that we could teach to do that. But that is, in my opinion, something that people use as just an excuse to not get going.
That's an interesting idea that people use it as an excuse, because I see people like being inconsistent, then thinking this is not for me because everyone says I have to be consistent. And I feel like consistency is important in something that you do, but like I like to blog, like I blog every week. I'm getting to that point where I am more consistently writing a blog post per day and publishing a blog post per day, but you could have a different frequency that works for you very well. But even if you're inconsistent in the beginning, that shouldn't be something that holds you back from continuing on this journey. And as we do create our content, the other piece we have to think about is the distribution. So like me, for instance, as I write a daily blog post, it's a little more different for me because I have to do distribution for all of them, while it may be easier for someone who's writing a weekly blog post. So either way, regardless of our frequency, how do we get better at distributing our content?
That's a good question too, because it kind of goes back to what I was saying, how a content piece can get morphed into all sorts of different types of content out there. And then inherently, each type of content kind of lives better in a certain platform online. So we're really big fans of creating a content piece once really well, and then using that, like pretty much squeezing the legs out of that content as much as possible. So I don't know if that makes sense, but but basically the idea is like, okay, let's take that work you did, that effort, and let's put it everywhere online where you can get the most amount of targeted eyeballs in the way that they can digest it the best, because everybody consumes content in different ways. So that's kind of like the theory behind everything we do. And
so I mean, just to give you an example, what we'll do is we'll make a blog post, and when that blog post goes live, we take that blog post and we repurpose it over on medium.com. And the reason for that is there's a different audience over on medium.com that's reading our content consistently than there is who's checking into our blog consistently. We use a tool called Designer to turn our blog post into a PDF. We take that PDF and we put that PDF on SlideShare. We put it on speakerdeck.com. We put it on issue.com and any other site that will allow us to freely upload PDFs. We take a YouTube video and put it on Vimeo and on Facebook and we'll rip the audio out, put the audio on SoundCloud. So we basically take every single piece of content we ever make and then figure out how do we turn this one piece of content into content that can be distributed across a ton of different platforms. Because our goal isn't always necessary to get people to come to our site. Oftentimes our goal is to get people to consume our content. So if we're creating a piece of content where the main goal of that piece of content is to sell an affiliate product or drive somebody over to an affiliate offer, I don't care if they are driven to the affiliate offer because they landed on evergreenprofits.com or because they found an article on Medium or because they found a PDF on SlideShare. It doesn't matter to me where they found it. At the end of the day, all I want is for them to consume that content and take the desired action at the end of the content. Now, saying that, there is another type of content, which is content that doesn't necessarily drive them to purchase an affiliate offer. It's more content to prove that you are sort of the guru, the high value expert in your niche. In those scenarios, our main goal is to get them over to our site. We want them on our site because we want to put them on a list. We want to get them pixeled in for Facebook ads, and we want to be able to follow up with those people. So there's really two types of content. There's the content that leads to a desired call to action by the end, and then there's content that is designed to show us as the experts to build our list and to build our pixels. So, that's kind of our overarching strategy behind our content. One thing that I would say about content marketing is there's a lot of people out there that are blogging just for the sake of blogging, right? They're out there just putting out new content all the time because that's what they've been told they need to do. They just need to put out content and be consistent. But we have a philosophy of every single piece of content we ever put on our blog needs to serve a purpose. That purpose either needs to drive them to a call to action or it needs to prove us as the experts and try to grow our list. If it's not doing one of those two things, it's probably not going to make it onto our blog.
It's interesting how you have a purpose for all the content you create. You're not just updating it because you're like that's common advice, and you're not even like it's more than just providing value to your audience. It's fulfilling one of those two purposes with that value as a given. Like people feel, I feel like a lot of us, we just think about providing value to our audiences, and that is important, but we have to think in addition to that, what call to action do we want to provide? How do we continue the conversation after the visitor just finished consuming our content? So that's a lot of food for thought, having to think about the purpose of us creating our content. And one of the things that, like with the purpose in mind, like, do you have a go-to call to action for specific pieces of content, or do you create a unique call to action for each piece of content? What's your approach for crafting that call to action and having that in mind as you're creating the content?
Yeah, so there's a few different types of call to actions we'll use, and Matt will talk about specifics in a second here, since that's his world. But so with every single blog post we put on, we'll just stick to like a written blog post, for instance. And you can see this at evergreenprofits.com. These are like case studies you can kind of follow along as we're giving examples. But you'll see on every blog post, there's going to be an opt-in slide-in that pops up on the bottom right side of your page as you scroll down 20, 30% down the page. That is extremely effective for one, to grow the list. Obviously, that's key. You want to do that. So every single opt-in, though, has a different kind of freebie or a bribe offer to get them in the door to opt in. And that is based on the content that we have. Kind of over time, we built a whole variety of opt-ins we can choose depending on the content that we write. But we do have one. It's called our marketing stack, where we basically, for free, we tell them all the 10 tools that we use for everything in our business. And, it pretty much is a follow-up sequence. It's really cool. It's free. They get a lot of value out of it. That can kind of be used for a lot of our blog posts, and the opt-in rates are great. So that's something that's a little bit more broad, but we do get more specific on things like sometimes we'll talk about cryptocurrency. So we have a crypto opt-in, and we can kind of swap those out depending on the content piece.
Yeah, we essentially have buckets, right? So we talk a lot about mindset on our blog. We talk a lot about, technical setup of business stuff on our blog. Occasionally we talk about investing and cryptocurrency and things like that. So we've got these various buckets, and each sort of bucket has its own opt-in. In an ideal world, we would have a unique opt-in, a content upgrade kind of thing for every single blog post. But, we've struggled to make that happen for every single piece of content. So our next best thing is to sort of have buckets of like anything that's mindset related gets this offer. Anything that's sort of tool, tech setup kind of stuff gets this offer. Anything that's investing related gets this offer. So we have various offers based on the sort of category of the content, if that makes sense.
I mean, it definitely does, because you with all blogs or podcasts or videos, you have this overarching channel or this overarching content platform, but it's the same themed type of content. Like for me, you'll find things about digital marketing, productivity, but we don't go incredibly far out of those areas. So just honing in on some of those buckets that you focus on, then having an offer for each of them can create a more engaging piece of content that also gets more engagement in the call to action area.
Absolutely.
And one of the questions that I enjoy asking is it's basically a question where it relates to any goal. And when it comes to goals, some people feel like they're a little stuck with where they are. They want to get from where they are now to where they want to be. So what do the two of you believe holds most people back from reaching their full potential?
Go for it.
You want me to answer? Okay.
First, yeah. Maybe we have different answers.
Yeah. So my opinion is overthinking things, overcomplicating things, thinking that, it's obviously going to be different for every person. I can speak for myself in the early days, and I can speak for a lot of the clients that we have that we consult with or work with on equity basis, is that everybody wants to overcomplicate the heck out of everything, right? They see every new launch, they see every new software tool that comes out. They go to they buy every training course. This month, hey, Snapchat's the hottest thing. You got to be doing Snapchat marketing. And then the next month it's, hey, this month YouTube is all the rage, and we're driving a crap ton of traffic through YouTube, so you got to be on YouTube. And I think people just get overwhelmed with the amount of ideas that are flowing to them, with the amount of tools that are available, when at the end of the day, it's really, really, really simple. Go out there, provide value for people, put something in front of them that gives them the ability to give value back to you in the form of paying you for a course or consulting or something similar. And that's really as simple as it is. You can build an entire business with, WordPress and PayPal and no other tools if you wanted to. But people think they need to overcomplicate the heck out of everything. And I think that is what holds most people back, is they get overwhelmed with the thought of how much work needs to go into something that they just never get started.
Mm-hmm. And I guess I'll piggyback off of that. I was actually going to say not having a big enough network and kind of expanding your reach a little bit with strategic partners, because I think that's extremely valuable. That's how we grew our business as well. So being open to new opportunities and networking, getting out there, it's huge. But I'm going to go off of what Matt was saying, because that is a common theme. It's crazy because we have a lot of clients and partners who are very high level, because we usually bring in people that are around the $300, $500, $1,000 per year mark as a minimum as a client, who has a team and blah, blah, blah. So they have a business going and they can scale, and we know how to leverage other folks, but they still, it's such a common theme. Like 90% of these people just get so scattered.
Yeah.
And even when I give them a plan, because we create these roadmaps, so we essentially, it's like a 3-month instruction manual on what to do to reach your goals in that period of time. So like for a quarter of the year. And still they start diverting off the plan, or asking, what if I tried this other thing? I'm like, you realize you got a plan right in front of your face here that is proven to get you to where you're trying to go. So people just like to just get a little too creative.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many times we give clients a next steps. We'll say, hey, these are the 5 things we want you to go do next. And then a launch happens and they said, hey, I just saw this brand new tool that makes little notifications pop up in the bottom corner of my blog that shows how many sales I'm making, right? Should I go get this tool? And it's just people overcomplicate stuff. We're like, no, follow the 5 steps we gave you, then worry about that. That's all marginal improvements. Do the things that are going to have the biggest impact the quickest. Once you've got the big impact stuff, having a website, a sales page, an offer, once that stuff's dialed in, then you go start playing with the stuffs that make very marginal improvements, like the FOMO type apps and surveys and countdowns and crap like that. Don't even bother with that kind of stuff until all the fundamentals, all your foundation is laid.
It's 80-20. Always think 80-20 rule in everything you do.
Well, thank you for sharing those insights on some of the things that are holding us back and that overcomplication. I mean, I feel like a lot of people can resonate with that, especially when it comes to a content brand. There are so many moving parts, and just to optimize one little part, and then you got trying to optimize like 100 little parts. So I could see how overcomplicating would be a big thing, holding us back from reaching our full potential. And another thing that I see that holds people back is the challenges that we have to face along the journey, because I think all of us know that it's not like 100% a smooth sail. Like you do get there at a certain point, and then you're able to achieve that level of smoothness once you're at that level of success. But we do face certain challenges along the way. So I'm wondering if the two of you could share a challenge that you faced while growing Evergreen Profits, and one of the powerful lessons you learned during that challenge.
I would say a big thing, and this isn't just for Evergreen, but it was as we've been growing things from day one online, is focus. It goes back to what Matt was saying right there, because he's speaking that from experience, both of us, and I think it's all of us. It's literally, and it's a mixture of that and having too many opportunities. Mm-hmm. And I know that sounds crazy, people starting out are like, oh, man, I don't feel like I have any opportunities. Jerk, why do you have too many? Yeah. And it's like, well, it's almost worse in a way, because you have to set up these filters for yourself to decide, and based off of your goals and where you're trying to get to, does this thing align with where I'm really trying to go? And you have to kind of run it through your own personal filters, ask yourself these questions, and be super freaking honest, because it might sound great that some person wants you to hop in as a sweat equity partner, say on the next Uber sounding thing, and you're like, man, this is going to be a $1 billion company one day. I'm going to totally miss out if I don't, go down this path. But maybe your knowledge is like nowhere near that. Your passions aren't for cars or all the transport, it's more for lawn care. Yeah. I don't know, super random examples, but you have to really be aligned with where you're trying to get to. And that's what's really stumped a lot of our growth initially, is really just trying to work on like 10 projects, literally 10 projects, or even working with 10 clients at once, because then your mental capacity just gets spread all over the place rather than really honed in. Again, 80-20. And maybe working on 3 projects max, maybe 2.
I mean, really, it's the problems that we had in the very beginning of our business and the problems we have now are essentially the same problems. They're just a different level, and it does come back to focus. In the beginning, it was, all right, we're building this thing. We've got no traction at all. How do we gain that initial traction? And then you've got people coming at us with, product launch formula and Google Sniper and SEO and YouTube and Snapchat and all this other stuff. So we had that shiny object syndrome where we didn't know what to focus on to really get the initial traction. Well, fast forward to today, our issues in our business are still focus, where now it's not what tools should we use, what processes should we use. It's, which opportunities should we be focused on, because so many are coming our way now. It's same problems, just a different level.
And it's interesting how you talk about one of the problems can be having too many opportunities. And I know that people say, like, sometimes you got to say no to opportunities, but I've never really seen too many opportunities as a problem. And this, one of the interviews I had a while ago was with Jeff Goins on the podcast, and he had a similar take on it, but he said something like, the amount of time I spend interviewing is like, I can't be working during that time. So like you could be doing all these interviews for all these podcasts, but you got to continue doing the work that is putting you in a position to get these interviews in the first place. So I can see how it's about balancing the work that you do to continue to grow, continue to serve your audience, and also taking opportunities like being a guest on a podcast.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
I mean,
it's all a giant balance.
It's focus and balance. I mean, really, it's not rocket science, this whole thing. And like Matt said, just kind of cap it off. I mean, just don't complicate stuff. I mean, we're constantly in a battle of just like pruning the amount of things, and now our challenge to ourselves to be at this, because we're really we want to do a lot of work, and we kind of trust ourselves to get it done right. And I think this is a curse of any entrepreneur or someone starting out. You want to just do everything, and you don't leverage systems or other people to help you out. And so I literally have like a Post-it note on my monitor right now that says delegate everything under $200 an hour.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, I think I should raise that up even higher, because I make excuses for myself still.
Yeah.
So that's just one example.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I think if somebody wants to get into a sort of content marketing based business, the best thing they can do is just start focusing on creating value. Stop focusing on, I wouldn't even focus on what you're going to sell yet. If you're in like a day job and you're thinking about going down this path, I would start focusing on, okay, this is the niche I'm going to get into. This is the audience I'm going to speak to. And I would just start creating content, creating value, just putting it out into the world for free, and start building an audience. Because once you have that audience, that's gold. Now you can take that audience and you can promote your offers when they are finally ready to be promoted. So focus on building a blog, putting content on it, and at the same time, probably building a list around it as well. You focus on those few things in the beginning, it's going to snowball pretty quickly, where you start to build an audience if you're going to the places where your niche is hanging out and putting your content in front of them. And when you are ready to sell something, that audience is going to be ready for you.
Definitely build a list.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people talk about the importance of that. That's always biggest regret number one, not building a list. And,
Yep.
I mean, the list is definitely something very powerful. And if you want to learn about anything like an email list or how to get an ROI or how to get more traffic, one of the best ways to do that is through self-education, like listening to these episodes, or something I also enjoy doing, reading books. So I'm wondering if the two of you can share 3 great book recommendations that you believe would have a positive impact on us.
Do you want 3 each or 3 total?
Let's do total.
Okay. I'm definitely, I go through about 4 books a month. I think Joe goes through about.
I'm much slower than Matt. So
1 book of every 4 months. So
hey, I'm not that slow. All right, go for it first, Matt.
Oh shoot. Okay, I'm looking at my bookcase. This is funny because this is actually a question we ask on our podcast, and I'm totally not even prepared for it for this podcast.
I mean, to be very honest, I think what really, it's so stereotypical, but the 4-hour work week, and it's something I read, initially 10 years ago or whenever the heck it came out, but it literally did shift how I started thinking and approaching solutions to business and life.
So
Matt, that's a good one you just picked out.
Yeah. So for me, probably the most powerful book I've ever read, and I actually read this one about once a year. It's called The Trick to Money is Having Some by Stuart Wilde. It's all about sort of the mental game of being able to create wealth and abundance. That book has had a very, very big impact, and it's one that I read constantly.
Another one, and this one is actually free. I think it's public domain because it's so old, but it's called The Science of Getting Rich. I don't know the author name of that one, but that one's amazing. It's like literally a free PDF, and it's not that long, and it's systematically how you should think. It's very similar along the lines of the book that Matt just said there.
Yeah, let me see. I want to give one more, so that way we're each giving 2.
Of course.
And okay, so my next one would be No BS Time Management by Dan Kennedy. That one had a big impact on me for making sure I'm always kind of staying focused on what I need to be doing. So for me, my big 2, The Trick to Money is Having Some, and No BS Time Management.
Matt and Joe, thank you for sharing those great books with us. We'll post those at the show notes, markberry.com/E134. And For any listeners interested in reading audiobooks, Audible is giving all Breakthrough Success listeners a free 1-month trial. If you just go to markberty.com/audible, that will also be in the show notes. You can get your free 1-month trial and a free audiobook as well. So before we close out this episode, I would like to flip tables a little bit. So Matt and Joe, I've asked you several questions throughout our time together, but this is for both of you. What is one question that each of you believe that we should be asking ourselves more often?
This is a good question. It's similar to the ones that we would ask on the podcast.
Yeah.
Go for it, Matt.
Okay, so ours is mine would be what is the big picture goal at the end of the road of all of this, right? So one of the concepts Joe and I talk a lot about is this concept of the North Star goal, the one sort of thing that's always on your mind that you're always striving for, and you use it as that filter, right? You use it as that filter of this decision I'm about to make. Does this bring me closer to my North Star goal, or does it take me farther away from my North Star goal? And for us, our big question is, what is that North Star goal?
That's true. Well, yeah, and I guess to piggyback on that, and I would agree with Matt. That's pretty much along the same lines. And North Star, I mean, it could be as much as or as little as like I want to own a Tesla one day, a Tesla Model S. Cool. But that's really obviously not that big. It could be, like Elon Musk, who wants to go colonize Mars. So we're and that's not ours by any means, but it's amazing. I support him. But that's kind of what we're working on currently, is figuring out a North Star that maybe it's a moving North Star. Maybe it starts small and gets a little bigger, but yeah, that's kind of the question that we constantly have in our mind.
Well, that becomes the filter that you can pass everything through. And it also becomes the mission that you can get other people on board with, right? So if other people are on board with your vision, on board with your mission, then they're more likely to support you and want to be a part of it. So if you have that North Star goal, you have that vision, then, it acts as a filter and as a way for people to rally around you. And so I think, that's a really good question for everybody to ask themselves.
Matt and Joe, thank you for sharing with us that great question and sharing all of your insights throughout this episode. And Breakthrough Success listeners, if you guys want to learn more about Matt and Joe, head over to evergreenprofits.com. They have a library of content there. If you like this episode, you are going to absolutely love that library of content about getting an ROI on content marketing, building your content brand, driving traffic, and all that fun stuff. Matt and Joe, I can't thank you enough for being guests on the Breakthrough Success podcast. It was a pleasure to have the two of you on the show.
Awesome. Thanks so much, man.
Absolutely. It was a good time.
How does over 100 retweets per day sound to you? My free ebook, 27 Ways to Get More Retweets on Twitter, has you covered. I use the methods within this ebook to get over 10,000 retweets every single quarter. To learn more and get access to this free resource, visit markberty.com/.